Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about a true creative giant, an artist who used steel and glass as his canvas, an architect who didn't just create buildings, he literally bent the rules of reality itself.
So, the news that frames our explainer today is that the architectural world has lost one of its most, radical and recognizable figures. Frank Gehry, the mind behind some of the most daring structures of the last century, has passed away at 96.
And his passing really makes you stop and think, right? Why was he so important? And what kind of mark does a man who could bend steel and glass into these impossible shapes really leave on our skylines? And of course, tributes just poured in from all over the world. But this one, from the museum that became his most famous masterpiece, man, it really says it all. It just highlights that deep, lasting connection he forged between his art and the cities he completely transformed. Okay, so to really get a handle on that legacy, we've got to go back. Way back. We need to see how this young guy from Toronto developed a style so out there that it would eventually be described as rule-breaking.
So yeah, his story starts up in Toronto, but it was really LA where his, rebellious spirit found its footing. He studies at USC and Harvard, and then bam, 1962, he starts his own firm, ready to shake things up.
And this is where you really see that first spark of rebellion. His big breakthrough? It wasn't some huge public project. Nope, it was his own home. He used stuff like chain-link fencing, plywood, and corrugated steel, basically sending a message that beauty can be found anywhere. And hey, the old rules, they just don't apply anymore.
And this whole experimental vibe, it actually got a name: deconstructivism. It's a style he would basically champion. And it's all about challenging our eyes, taking what we think of as order and symmetry and just flipping it completely on its head.
And it wasn't just random chaos for the sake of it. It was a whole philosophy. Embracing these raw, unfinished materials, shattering traditional symmetry, he was treating his buildings less like static structures and more like these massive, incredible sculptures that you could actually live and work in.
So by 1989, the world is definitely taking notice. He's 60 years old, and he gets architecture's highest honor, the Pritzker Prize. And I love this quote from the jury. They compared his work to jazz. It's just perfect, right? That sense of improvisation, of energy, that beautiful, unpredictable spirit.
And that radical style, that jazzy spirit, well, it was all building up to the one project that would make him a global icon and change an entire city forever.
Okay, so the year you need to remember is this one, 1997. This is when his masterpiece, this unbelievable titanium-covered Guggenheim Museum, opens in the industrial city of Bilbao, Spain. And it stunned the world.
And the impact was, wow, immediate and just seismic. I mean, you've got another legendary architect, Philip Johnson, who doesn't hold back at all, calling it an instant modern marvel and a whole new benchmark for what architecture could even be. Get this, the museum's success was so huge, so transformative, it literally created its own economic term, the Bilbao effect. Just think about that for a second. An architect didn't just build a museum, he designed an engine for a city's revival.
And you can see why. The results were just undeniable. The Guggenheim wasn't just some pretty building to look at. It became a powerhouse for real-world change. It boosted tourism, kickstarted an ailing economy, and it inspired cities all over the world to start believing in the power of really bold, daring design.
Okay, so that brings up a big question. How in the world did he actually do it? How do you create these complex, windswept structures that look like they're defying gravity?
Well, here's the secret sauce. He completely pushed the envelope by borrowing technology from other fields. We're talking about advanced 3D modeling software, the same kind of stuff aerospace engineers used to design jets. Most architects at the time, they wouldn't touch it. Too complex, too expensive. But Gehry dove right in.
And that tech was a total game changer. It unlocked this incredible portfolio of iconic buildings all over the globe. And what's so cool is that none of them look alike. Each one is totally unique. From the dancing house in Prague to a business school in Sydney that people affectionately call the brown paper bag.
But, when you're this radical, this visible, you're going to make some waves. And that means controversy. And yeah, a few pretty memorable pop culture moments.
And this is where you really see his playful personality shine. When critics came after his Walt Disney Concert Hall, calling it things like a pile of broken crockery, he didn't get mad. He just shot back with this perfect, witty line. At least they're looking.
He knew exactly how powerful it was just to get people's attention.
I mean, his fame got so big that he ended up voicing himself on The Simpsons. It's a classic episode where they kind of poke fun at his creative process, suggesting his genius design came from just crumpling up a piece of paper.
But here's the fascinating part. That joke, it kind of took on a life of its own. He later said it haunted him because people started to actually believe the myth. They thought his incredibly complex designs came from a crumpled piece of paper, not from, the super sophisticated computer modeling that was really behind it all.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. When you look back at the incredible life and work of Frank Gehry, what's the big takeaway? What is his ultimate legacy?
It's this. He wasn't just putting up buildings. He was creating sculptures. He was sparking emotion. He was making landmarks that didn't just sit there. They actively reshaped cities and fired up our imaginations. He proved that architecture could absolutely be art.
And that really leaves us with one last big question about his legacy. A question that honestly affects all of us. He proved buildings can be art. But in a world with so many practical needs, should they be? It's a challenge to all of us to think about what we really want from the spaces we live in. Is it just shelter, or is it something more?